and welcome to 7 Steps to Paradise, how to set up your Moodle companion site using just a syllabus. By following these 7 simple steps, you'll be able to set up your companion site in no time and be ready to rock and roll with your class. Here then are the 7 steps. First, getting a good syllabus. From the syllabus, creating a course outline. From the course outline, laying out your front page. And once you've done that, looking at the gradebook, making sure that's accurate, hanging the various static activities that you've got for the site, and then working on the real cool stuff that you can get to online. Finally, enrolling your students so that they can enjoy the fruits of all your hard labor. The first step is making sure you have a good syllabus, and what we mean by that is make sure you have the correct one. There are quite often older syllabi running around, but you have to make sure that you've gotten the most recent on-ground version of the syllabus. Make sure that the syllabus does have the correct learning outcomes, it has a good outline of what the assignments are, has a relatively clean schedule. Now the schedule will not be complete, but at least it should be laid out for you as to what must be accomplished from week to week. Finally, verify the textbook information, make sure the course description in the syllabus matches what is published in the current catalog, and last but not least, make sure the required homework hours are embedded. If all those things are true, you've got a good starting point and you're ready to start building your Moodle site. If there's a problem with any of this, make sure you talk to OCD and try to get the best syllabus that's available for you. The second step involves taking the information on the syllabus, which admittedly is incomplete. You can't teach the entire class off just the syllabus. It's the starting point. It's what we use to ensure that everyone who teaches a given class comes up with the same outcomes and does the same basic activity. But converting that into an actual course where you are looking at dates and times and activities requires a little more work. And that's where the course outline comes in. Now, this is true whether or not you're going to use a Moodle companion site. What you need to do then is put dates in for the weeks. When really is week 3 coming up in this particular mod? For each of the assignments, you may have something in the syllabus that's fairly stark. Something like assignment 3A, 5 points, write a paper. You need to develop the details on that assignment. What's the paper about? When's it due? How many pages should it be? What format is it? You name it, you need to write that down. The more detailed it is, the easier it is for the students to actually perform that activity, and the easier it is for you to grade it. So using that same idea, by having the details very clearly set out, then you can also fairly quickly set up the rubrics. Now, we've talked about that in an earlier class, but you do want to have some fairly clear rubrics so that you can grade this easily. Make sure the start dates and the due dates are available, all on one piece of paper. If you decide to add in some online activities as part of the homework or to give your students additional material, go ahead and write that in now. If there's any kind of publisher supplied ancillaries, be they PowerPoint slides or practice tests online, make sure that you write that in as well and when they're going to actually come into that point in the class. Finally, collect any existing exams or create whatever exams you're going to need and go ahead and put those in the right place within the course outline. I mean, not the exam itself, but the actual day and time where you're going to give that exam. Once you've completed this course outline, as you can tell, it's really the huge date book for the class. You've ended your prep work. You are now ready to either go directly into the classroom and start teaching for the next 5 to 10 weeks, or you're ready to build your Moodle companion site so that it will dovetail with what you're going to be doing in the classroom for the next 5 to 10 weeks. Step 3. Now, this is more sort of web design, but realize that when you're looking at Moodle, there are all sorts of options. You can do whatever you want to do within Moodle to make the site yours and, more importantly, to make it efficient and effective for your students. These are some basic rules of thumb for web design and for education online, which can translate very well into your companion site. First of all, don't throw everything word for word on the front page of your class. Especially if you're looking at the top of a front page. If you constantly leave the course description and all the learning outcomes, as you see on the left here, the student has to scroll through that every single time they come into the class. It's great the first time they see it, but after that, they don't even read it. It's just in the way. So what you want to do is, for most of these material items that are only good for one viewing, is to actually just link to them. Have the student open it up, see it the first time, then close it and move forward. So that's the whole less is more idea. What you want in your front page is a nice even flow from day 1, hour 1 to the last day, 10 or 5 weeks later, that they have to move through in the class. They should be able to look at that front page and say, okay, hey, 3 weeks from now there's a paper. Oh, 5 weeks from now I've got a midterm. Wow, 10 weeks from now I've got a final. It's all laid out very clearly, so there's no confusion in the mind of the student as to what they must do. You do that by, again, linking, and I'm pushing that because it works so well. Knowing because there's a link that says midterm that there's a test is great, and then you can click on that link to get more details. How many questions? What kind of questions? When is it going to be offered? Let them find the information when they want to see it. That's when it's most impactful to them. If it's not something they have to do that week, don't open it up. Just link it so that, again, you have a smooth, even flow on your front page. If the front page is attractive, and by that I mean it's clear, it's clean, there's white space, there's an easy rotation from top to bottom where people can see the rhythm from week to week to week and what is being actually done, students are more likely to go there, they're more likely to find what they need to find, and they're more likely to succeed in your classroom. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. And again, I apologize for the beach-themed bad pun here. But if you look at the course syllabus, it's very, very stark. There's not much there. It's sort of headings and nothing beyond the headings. And there's no way, unless you're lucky enough that, say, there's a student manual or an instructor manual associated with the course, there's nothing there to give you the background as to what must be done during that particular week. So as you build your course outline, as you can see here in the brown text, you're actually building up the class. You're teaching it in your head before you ever get in front of the students, and that's one of the most powerful ways to improve your teaching. Once you have this good course outline, once you know what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 weeks, you can then very quickly port that over into Moodle, and if you notice, that's a very clean look. If you're a student, you can glance at week 2 there and know exactly what's expected of you. If you need more information, you can drill down and get more information. There's not a whole lot of text there, 1-2 sentences just to give you an idea of here's what to expect, and off we go. Very clean, very nice, and that's what you want to do. You want to make it an inviting site. One of the sort of rules of thumb I have is if I'm a student coming into your class and I look at your front page, would I know what I have to do to succeed in that course? If the answer is yes, you've done a great design job. If the answer is no, we have some work to do. So here's what I mean by that. If we're laying out this front page, if I'm putting it week by week by week, if I'm putting in the same rotation activities like read the textbook or perform these end of chapter questions or take a weekly quiz, whatever it may be, but if there is a nice clean form, a good rhythm, then the content will actually direct the learning flow. The student knows, okay, I've got to get a quiz by the end of the week. Okay, I've got to do end of chapter questions by the end of the week. I've got to do this and this and this. That's what you're aiming for. Now, one of the other things that you can do with the front page, and it kind of depends on how much you want to play around with it, is you can either turn off or turn on the description of each of the links individually using buttons, or you can hide the entire week by using the little eye icon. That's that strange little blue thing over there. I don't recommend hiding a past week because they may want to go back and review, and realize that Moodle will highlight the current week, so there is something to draw their eye to what's due right now. But again, if you can minimize it, even though it's a few more keystrokes for you, it allows them to scroll far less to get to the important information on that page. And scrolling is evil, okay? The more the student has to scroll, the less likely they are to read, the less likely they are to actually get to the point they need to be at to get the information they require. So play around with it, find out what you're looking for and how it works best for you. I'm not going to tell you there's any one perfect way of doing it. I'm just saying that you can find a way that's going to drive the students to the location you want them to be at. Think of this front page as the index to your course. It's not the overall narrative. It's not the student manual. It's not the instructor manual. It's not a textbook. It's the index to learning. And like any good index, if I find a key word, I can drill down from that key word and find the data that I need. And that's the viewpoint you need to keep. As you've been developing the front page, you've been adding in things like assignments and quizzes. You may not have actually completed them yet in the sense of actually building in all the bells and whistles, putting in all the data, putting in all the questions into the quiz, but the very act of adding in these things will start to build your gradebook. Now, one of the things we'd like to do in the long run is to have all student work digitally submitted and therefore archived on Moodle. We want to have all of the grades on the Moodle Gradebook so that if there's a question on a student's grade 2, 3, 4 terms from now, we can just go back to the archived version of your class and say, your work was late, that's why you got minimum scores or no scores, or oh, wait a minute, you were caught cheating, whatever it may be. If it's there, we can find it. So as you're putting together that front page, you're probably going to be building in a lot of assignments. And they're going to be assignments of things like single file submissions or weekly quizzes, whatever it may be. You need to make sure that your gradebook actually reflects all of those and the points that they are worth. Just because you go in and add a quiz, it's going to give you the number of points that are the default standard for a quiz, not how many points you actually are going to give the students. You need to go in and modify that to make sure it's right, and that's what the gradebook does for you. So make sure you're looking in at, well, what are the overall point values? What are the due dates? If you build due dates into your class, what happens is it builds a calendar in the background that students can access. So you'll actually get on one of the side panels, here are the next 3 things that are due. You need to get these done by this date and this date and this date. They can even download an ICS file that allows them to put that calendar into their iPhone or into their Outlook, whatever it may be, so that they can actually have with their daily tasks, here's what's due in my class. It's a great way, without a lot of extra work on your part, to allow them to plan better, or to at least teach them how to plan. One thing to be aware of is the default setting for the gradebooks is a weighted mean, which is not typically how we grade things. We normally grade things by sum. It's just a matter of using the pull down and making the correct selection, but that's part of this process. Now we're going to have an entire class just on how to put together a gradebook. So this is just your initial taste of how to do this. Realize that any of this stuff, the direct feeds, the add-ons, which are the indirect feeds, all this stuff is going to make your life easier downstream. Remember that once you build a class well, we can always copy it over the next mod. Moodle very easily allows us to strip out the student data in the copy and then to place that copy, all the gradebook activities, all of the material you've added in the class will all appear in your new iteration for the next mod. So this work is not wasted. If anything, it becomes more and more valuable the longer you teach the same class. Now that you've created that front page so the students know what they're actually doing and what's required of them, now that you've built that gradebook so you know how to account for the points, it's time to start adding life to this site. Make it worthwhile for the students to come visit it. Don't make it simply a homework drop-off zone. So find information that's going to be helpful to them. Take that old student manual and break it into parts and hang that up on the website so that they can get the information digitally, and we're not killing ourselves making tons and tons of copies that students end up losing anyway. If you've got digital documents, I recommend putting them in as PDFs and then going ahead and hanging them directly inside your site. If it's not one of our documents, if it's something you got from a third-party source and you thought it was really cool, it is far better to link to it than to embed it in your class. And the reason for this goes back to copyright. If I link to something, if it's still in its original setting, it's still showing who the original author is, that's not a problem. I'm not making a copy of it, I'm merely directing eyeballs to go see it. That avoids all copyright issues. On the other hand, if I go there and through the joy of the internet, if I right-click on it and copy it and then bring it into Moodle and right-click and paste it, now I potentially have just broken copyright law because that counts as another publication. Realize if you're going to use the links, although you can have really cool stuff now, you do then have to verify those links before every class. You know as well as I do that links have a fairly short half-life on the internet. So go through, check the links before you start teaching the class, and you should be fine. But we're talking about the new web, the cool web, the moving web, the video web. Well, we really don't have the bandwidth, nor do we want to have the bandwidth to host our own videos. For the most part, that just takes way too much time and effort, especially when there are free services that have these materials all over the place that are already hosting it. So rather than downloading a video or creating your own video and then trying to load it inside our servers and then have it stream back out to our students, it is far better to grab an existing video and then link to that video, be it a YouTube or a TED video, whatever it may be. By having that live link, you can actually embed a player inside Moodle. So it looks like we have our own video there, but it's actually being hosted on an external site. We'll again have a class on how to do that a little bit later on. The SCORM activities, these are the sort of cool playthings where we build up games that feed into your gradebook. Right now they're a little problematic for us. We're looking at some software that may or may not help. Most of the tools that already exist in Moodle are good enough as they are. We don't need to go to SCORMs, but over time we probably will, just because they do add a whole nother dimension to play. Moodle has an excellent capacity for picking up RSS feeds. This is the real simple syndication. You can go to the Wall Street Journal and they have dozens of these links that are specific to a topic. So if you have a class that's interested in Far Eastern business, there's a link for that, and you can just copy and paste the link, you put it in the RSS feed for Moodle, and there on the side panel of your class is this constantly updated stream of news articles. It's fantastic. Give it a try. It doesn't cost a dime. Images, again, there's a copyright issue, so make sure that you're using images that do not have copyright restrictions on them. If they're available and you can use them, say, for instance, in Microsoft Office, great. But if you're just grabbing them off the web, just like with a document, you may be breaking copyright. One of the fun things you can do when it comes to picking up material and linking is, instead of you finding all the cool stuff online, have the students do it. Make it an activity and have them drop in the URL so all of these students can see what everyone else has found. The real fun part is then you end up with a library of really cool sites that you can use every time you teach this. So many hands do make light work in this case. And they feel like they're really succeeding by bringing you this cool data. Give it a try. I think you'll like it. We're at the 7th step. You've done all the work. You've built the house, you painted it, you put in all the furniture, but there's no one home yet. So we have to enroll the students. That's it. That's all you have to do. Now you have a great companion site that you can use to make your life as a teacher a whole lot easier and to record your students' progress. So to give you the flow very cleanly and very quickly, remember to build your syllabus into that outline. All the detail, all the dates. Take the outline and make it into a front page. Clean, clear, crisp, lots of white space. Finish up the gradebook. Add any of the data, the capacity, the statics, the videos, whatever you want to do so that your site looks cool and the students have something fun to look at. And you're done. Go teach. Go have a great time. I think you'll find that if you follow these steps, it will get you much more familiar with Moodle and you will be much happier as an instructor. Please do stay tuned for future training where we will be much more involved in the details of all the various aspects of Moodle. It's going to be a lot of fun and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you much, and have a great day.